Enjoying things is a skill that needs to be practiced. And I know that sounds kind of strange to say, because why would you need to practice enjoying something? Like, enjoyment is one of the best experiences to have in life. However, I think many of us who struggle with seeing the silver lining in things, who struggle with allowing ourselves to experience pleasure or joy, have to practice enjoying things. Because enjoyment is kind of like a tool that needs to be sharpened so that you can use it when you need to use it and when it's appropriate to use. If you're somebody who is always waiting until they get the thing that they want, that they've been dreaming about, idealizing, whatever, and then they'll let themselves be happy, then they'll let themselves enjoy their life, then even when you get that thing, you won't actually enjoy it because you don't know how to enjoy things. You haven't practiced enjoyment. Because again, enjoyment is it's a skill that has to be honed. And obviously in life, we have a lot of things that we can't enjoy because life sucks sometimes. And there are things that we can't control, things that are painful, that cause a lot of suffering and struggle. It's not about denying those things, as I always say. That is part of reality as well. But there are many things in your life right now that warrant enjoyment that you might not be enjoying. And when you don't do that, even the smallest of things, it doesn't even have to be anything grand, even the smallest of things, you can look at this as another way of gratitude, right? Having gratitude for even the smallest mundane things in your life. If you don't enjoy them, even the smallest things, you won't sharpen that tool, the enjoyment tool. It'll be really dull. And so when you then experience something that is very worth enjoying, warrants enjoyment to the fullest, self-indulgence to the fullest, you won't be able to do that because that's not what you know to do. The only thing you've known to do so far, because you've shown yourself that you've been doing it over and over again, is to not enjoy things, to always be waiting, to be looking to the next thing so that you can have enjoyment. You'll always be seeking the next thing, the thing that is always out of reach, before you allow yourself to enjoy something. So enjoyment is a concept that you're chasing, but you'll never actually get to it because the point is not to get to it. In your mind, as you're practicing it now, the point in your mind now is not to get to enjoyment, it's to always be seeking enjoyment, not to actually have enjoyment. See how there's like a difference there? And I say this because I struggle with this, or I had in the past. I think I've gotten a lot better because I've had to really think about it this way. It's a practice. Just like anything in life is a practice. You have to do it over and over again. Some things we do unconsciously over and over again. Simply getting up in the morning, which might seem so mundane and so like, obviously this is what I have to do. It's a practice to do that. The way you structure your life, it's a type of practice. Anything you do is a practice. The way you floss your teeth, the way you get dressed, anything, it's a practice. And you can sometimes do it consciously and say to yourself, I really want to get better at this, or I want to do it in the best way, or I'm doing it the same way forever, but for a specific purpose. Like, it's all a practice, right? There's a devotion involved there. Enjoyment is the same thing. You have to be devoted to enjoying things. And devotion requires you to do it regardless if the circumstances are perfect or not. You have to remove the idea that things have to be a certain way before you devote yourself to something. That defeats the purpose of devotion, right? And you can think of devotion in any context. I'm using it in a more, I guess, secular way. Devoting yourself to enjoying your life, to your life in general, right? And yes, there are things in life that are, again, painful, uncomfortable, awful. And you should let yourself also feel that pain. It's not about denying the pain and then only enjoying things, only looking to the silver lining, only thinking of, toxic positivity. That defeats the purpose. It's about understanding that enjoyment is a tool to help combat a lot of the feelings that you're having, right? Because the feelings will be there and you should feel them. So how do we counteract them? How do we balance them out in this life? Because life doesn't have to be all that. Because it won't be. It will be both, right? There will be pain and there will be pleasure, because that is the balance of the universe. The yin and the yang, right? So when you are very good at practicing experiencing pain, that's going to really send you into an imbalance, because you're not good at then practicing pleasure if you haven't actually practiced understanding how to enjoy things in your life. So you'll have nothing to create that balance for yourself. It's a skill. You have to do it over and over again. So what are some small ways that you can practice enjoying things? It can be as simple as congratulating yourself for something that you did that you maybe didn't think you could do, or something that's just something you had to do that you were just annoyed about and were putting off for a while, you're procrastinating and you did it finally. Enjoy that. Enjoy that that you were able to do that, right? It's a kind of a form of respect as well when you allow yourself to enjoy yourself in whatever way. It could be allowing yourself to eat something that just is delicious because it's just delicious, and of course always be mindful of your health and well-being, right? I'm not saying to indulge in things that aren't good for you in big amounts and huge amounts, right? Maintain the balance and maintain your best sense of self and wellness, obviously, always. It's not about being somebody who you aren't in order to then indulge in certain things. You don't have to become hedonistic. I'm not saying that either. Just about balance, right? But if you don't allow yourself to enjoy things, you won't know how to enjoy them when you get the life you want. And how sad is that, right? Like, think about it. You are spending your time working towards something, striving, hustling, whatever, thinking, when I get this thing, I'll finally be able to just enjoy it. I'll be able to feel satisfied and just enjoy things. And then you get that thing, you get to that point in your life that you wanted to get to, and you don't feel that enjoyment. Not because it's not there. It's there for you to experience. It's there for you to pick up and hold. You just don't know how to because you haven't practiced enjoying things. So you can't even see the cues of where enjoyment lies. You can't see it in front of you. You don't understand what it looks like, what it feels like. So you don't. And then you're sitting in the life you've created, the dream life that you finally reached, potentially, and you can't even enjoy it. And so you're seeking for the next thing that, okay, enjoyment's not here, so it must be somewhere else. It must be in the next venture. It must be in the next achievement. It won't be there either because it's right here, right now. Like, it is literally here for you to experience. So if you're always seeking it somewhere else, you're missing the purpose. You're missing the point. The point isn't to find it anywhere other than right here and right now. The point really is to understand how to enjoy, how to experience enjoyment. And that comes down to you and whether or not you're willing to let yourself do that. I think there's a lot of ego tied into this, right? You think, well, I don't deserve to enjoy anything until I achieve this, whatever. I don't deserve to indulge in anything because I'm not good enough, or I haven't done this, or I don't have a partner, I don't, whatever it is. That's the ego speaking, right? It's saying you have to be better or different or something else for you to then enjoy things. The way you are right now in your current circumstances, the way your life is, cannot be enjoyed. Think about how sad that is to say to yourself. And you might not be consciously saying it. Again, it's a subconscious thing. And the more you don't allow yourself to enjoy things, the more you put off enjoyment until the next thing, you're telling yourself subconsciously, abstractly, right? Not concretely, but you're saying it to yourself that you as you are, your life as it is right now, is not good enough. That's what you're saying to yourself when you don't allow yourself to enjoy things or indulge in something right now. That's what you're saying. So of course you feel not good enough because you're reinforcing that belief every time you refuse to enjoy something. Every time you put off enjoyment until you finally become whatever you think you need to become to experience enjoyment, as though enjoyment will only come to you when you get something. It's here. It's literally here right now. It's around you. You get to decide when to do it, when to experience it. And you have to put aside your ego to do that. And you have to put aside your perfectionism and your tendency to self-sabotage. You have to set all of that aside because there's a bigger purpose here. The purpose is to practice enjoyment so that you can truly enjoy the life you're creating for yourself. That's the point of this, right? It's a skill you're trying to hone. Like, as an example, like maybe a more tangible example, if you're training for a marathon, as an example, you have to train. You have to run all the time and get ready for it. Because when the time comes for the actual marathon, you have to be able to do it. You don't expect, I'll be able to run that marathon, when the marathon comes. I'll just wait until then to start running because that's when it's time to run. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? Obviously, there's nuance to these topics, but just to give you a more tangible example of that, you wouldn't wait until that time, because then when that marathon comes and you have not been practicing, what do you think is going to happen? You're not going to be able to run. You're not going to be able to do it. And so how sad, right? Because you've been looking forward to this marathon. You've been wanting to do it. You felt like you'd feel so proud of yourself when you got to do it. And then you can't do it because you haven't practiced how to do it. It doesn't feel like second nature to do. It doesn't feel easy to slip into, an identity to easily put on because you've been doing it so much up until now, right? And I think identity is another big part of this. You think that You'll only be able to be this identity of a person who enjoys their life when the life that you want just manifests. But realistically, to get the life that you want, that you think will then give you the enjoyment, you have to actually start practicing being that person now. You have to put that identity on you now, which means then also putting on the ability to enjoy things, because that's part of the future identity you're looking to be, right? You want to be somebody who's able to enjoy their life because your life will be enjoyable at that time. But you can't get to that life unless you become that person right now. So that means practicing enjoyment right now. And obviously, this is easier said than done. It's hard to do that, especially when your circumstances aren't always great, of course. Like I said, there are many times in our lives that we're going to be in the worst headspace. We're going to have the worst things happening, and it'll feel impossible to enjoy something. And it's especially important in those moments, as difficult as they are. I'm not trying to deny the difficulty of it, but it's especially important in those moments to enjoy something, to find something to practice that enjoyment, because it is a practice. So like even in the least ideal circumstances, if you're training for that marathon, going back to that example, you're going to have to do it even if the circumstances aren't great. Yeah, sometimes you can't, and that's okay too. It's not about being completely and totally rigid with this. But the point is to push through the discomfort and do the thing because that's what you're trying to achieve and that's what you're trying to get to, so that you can fully indulge in your experience, the experience you're trying to create for yourself. You won't be able to do it unless you push yourself through it, even in moments when it doesn't feel like anything's aligning for you, right? The circumstances aren't great. It's not perfect. It's raining out. Like you have to do it even in those moments, right? This is the only way to really get to anything, to really be good at anything. That applies to enjoyment as well. If you want to be good at enjoying things, you have to be able to enjoy things even when things aren't always enjoyable, right? I mean, another example is like writing. As I'm a writer, right? You have to write no matter what. And sometimes you're not going to be in the best mood. You're not going to be in the best circumstances. You're going to wake up with a headache. You're going to have something. And it's especially important in those moments to write, because if you're trying to get to the end point where you are a writer, where you've written, you have to do that before you get to that point, because you can't get to that point unless you do it, even in circumstances where it's not great, because it also shows you your resilience too. And obviously this is kind of like ironic to say, practicing enjoyment shows you how resilient you are to discomfort, but it's true, right? Because sometimes it can be uncomfortable to enjoy things when we don't think we're worthy of it yet, or when things aren't perfect. There's a discomfort to that. There's a discomfort to pleasure sometimes, ironically. Especially in those moments, you have to push through that. You have to enjoy things. You have to let yourself do that. Encourage yourself to enjoy something. It can be the smallest of things. Again, it's just a matter of practice. And if you can enjoy something small this time, you can enjoy something a little bit bigger next time, and a little bit bigger after that. And then things that seem mundane and insignificant, because you're putting this energy into them, right? This enjoyment energy into them, they become more enjoyable to you because you're fueling them with this feeling of enjoyment. And now all of a sudden you're marveling at your life, which otherwise would have seemed so insignificant, so mundane, so boring. You're marveling at it because you've been fueling it with enjoyment. And now you're enjoying what you have right now. And then when you get whatever else you want, you'll be able to enjoy that too. And say you don't get what you want in life. Let's say you just can't, because you can't control the outcome, right? At least then you've been enjoying your life thus far. So imagine like you're waiting to enjoy things. You can't get that thing because circumstances just don't align that way. And you haven't even been able to enjoy what you had. How sad, again. So I hope this was informative, insightful. I hope it gave you a different perspective on the idea of enjoyment, and to look at it as a skill, and a skill with a purpose. The purpose being for you to enjoy your life, because you deserve to enjoy your life. Like you should, if you can, even in the smallest of ways, let yourself enjoy your life. If you want to talk about this in more detail with me, you can book a one-to-one call over on my website. We can, bounce ideas off of each other, explore this topic a bit more. I'm not a therapist, as I always say. If you want to read about this, I have a Substack where I've written an essay about this as well. And if you want to see my short form content, follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Other than that, thank you for being here, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.